various vehicles. He was misleading them in various degrees. How? He told them about his prior successful trading successes. That were completely incorrect. He told them about his performance with past investments, which was completely incorrect and wrong. He told them how he was going to use the money and he was going to invest their money to guarantee returns, which was completely false. And last but not least, and we'll go into these in a little bit more detail, he gave them the status of their investments in weekly reports, which was completely incorrect and fraudulent. He told these individuals that their investments would be safe and secure, and these investments would be in technology startup companies and foreign exchange markets. He took that information, and in addition to telling these individuals, many of whom who got their monies from their retirement accounts and invested those monies, he told them with a guaranteed rate of return that they would get their money back on a monthly basis. And as you can see from the indictment, he guaranteed a rate of return. What in fact happened? What in fact happened was that Seaman caused his victims and victim investors to lose a substantial amount of their money because he never invested in technically startups. He invested in currency trading where he lost a significant amount of money over time. And how did he cover his tracks? He covered his tracks by, after losing the money, he would bring in new investors, and in a Ponzi-type-like arrangement, he would take the money that he got from new investors to pay off the old investors to give people the appearance that the investment was, in fact, pulling back the rate of return that he promised, which was completely incorrect. So he was hiding his losses by using a Ponzi scheme and also with the false monthly statements. Where did the money go? Well, of course, as we mentioned, he lost quite a significant amount of the money in his currency trading. But he also used a significant amount of money for his own personal benefit. And if you look through counts 6 to 9 in the indictment, that reflects various of the ways he spent it on his personal expenses. For instance, he spent $12,500 on his own personal rent. In one transaction, he spent $25,000 on jewelry. In another transaction, he spent $40,000 on a private jet. In another transaction, he bought a Ferrari for his own person and paid in excess of $165,000 for a Ferrari, all using investor money. It goes without saying these investors never agreed that their money could be or would be used in a Ponzi scheme type arrangement to pay off new investors, and they certainly didn't agree that the monies that they would be used would be to pay for his personal expenses and his personal lifestyle. Mr. Seaman was taken into custody this morning. He faces a significant period of incarceration. He has an initial appearance in this courthouse this afternoon, and he will be prosecuted for the full extent of the law for this extensive fraudulent scheme that went on for approximately 4 years here in the Middle District of Florida and elsewhere. If you have any questions, I'll be gladly take them.
Is this related to the 2023 charges by the Securities and Exchange Commission?
It is. This is they started an investigation on a civil level with individuals. We continue the investigation to move into the criminal level to examine and go into exactly the false statements and allegations that Seaman made to investors. And we went yet further to go into what exactly Seaman spent that money on, such as the Ferrari, the jewelry, et cetera.
Okay. And for the victims, you talked a little bit about that. What was he targeting, an age range? Do we know who he was targeting, and have all victims been notified?
Well, did he know he was targeting? Yes, he did know he was targeting. He used the church down in the Naples area called Grow Church. Many of the investors that were there that he spoke to over time, not all of them elderly, some of them were, and had dipped into their retirement accounts to pay these monies to Seaman. So yes, he knew these people, and then he used word of mouth to garner these people. And then of course, he also used these people to say, look, I've guaranteed your investment, and your investment has been paying off, when in truth and in fact, what he was doing is using new victims' money to pay off the old victims.
Curious to know if we can expect more indictments. Did he work alone? Were there co-conspirators? What can we expect in the future?
Well, what I can tell you is that there are numerous people that are involved and were involved in this on various different levels. There were numerous limited liability corporations, LLCs, that are listed in the indictment, many of whom were run by multiple people. That investigation continues. Where that's going to go at this point, I can't tell you, but I will tell you this, that the investigation is not over.
How did this come to light? What was the tipping point to where people began to realize it was fraud?
Well, it's an interesting question that you ask, because we had a very, very astute IRS agent who noted a few things on individuals' license plates, not the least of which is the Mr. Beeman. And he ran several license plates and realized these people had, tax deficiencies and potential tax fraud, began to look into it and called the FBI. And the FBI was taking complaints from investors at approximately the same time. And it was a convergence of relationship. And since that convergence, the FBI and the IRS have been working this thing together. So it's funny you ask that question, how these matters come to the fore, but that's how it happened. It just was a relationship that worked, and
When did that?
several years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's been that long.
Well, these one of the issues in any type of financial investigation, unlike a reactive case, we get a reactive case on the street that is very easy to see what a person did and didn't do and then arrest the person. In a financial case, it's a document review. After the document review, it's an analysis by any number of people of those documents. Then you take that in conjunction with the people who actually made the investments, what their expectation level was. It's an examination, for instance, of the promotional material that Seaman put out, where he's talking people that, and one of them for Acanito Equity 2, he told his investors he was going to guarantee 2.5% monthly on a monthly basis. Those types of things. So, and there are multiple investment vehicles here. All of them were fraudulent, and most of them were fraudulent, I should say. So you piece together all that information, but you have to piece together the financials, and that takes a bit of time. So that's a long explanation to say to you is, once you get a financial case with a lot of documents and a lot of fraud and a lot of people involved, it takes some time to piece together if you're going to do it right. But let me say this, and the IRS and the FBI did a tremendous job with our prosecutors in our office. That type of analysis and work really has to be done on the front end. You have to do all the hard financial analyst work on the front end if you expect to be successful at the end. So.
Talk a little bit about how you got to 36 million. I know here on, sorry, papers are falling. Page 7, there's multiple victims here. It looks like 5. But is this number adding up to 36 million?
No, it doesn't. Those are. Let me explain. You're talking about counts 1 through 5.
Yeah.
Those are just the wire fraud counts.
Okay.
And what we have to prove there is that there was a use of the wires, interstate wires, to facilitate this fraud. And those are just emblematic of 5 instances when the wires were used to facilitate the fraud. They are not the only instances. These are 5 different investors. They are not the only investors. There are any number of investors. So if you're asking how we get to a number of 36, we counted all of the people who had been involved and invested in these various vehicles and came up with that number. Now keep in mind that in that 36 million that he secured, a certain percentage of that money as part of the Ponzi scheme was paid back. And I think we analyzed that, and we came up with a number that is approximately about 8 million was paid back to investors in the Ponzi scheme. So, but nevertheless, we know that he lost 20 million in his currency trading. We know that he spent about 7.6 million on his own personal expenses, and then there were miscellaneous expenses running the various operations for the companies.
And these victims, you talk about how they dipped into the retirement. What kind of situation are they in now? Are they able to move on from this, or is this something that they're really, I mean, I know you guys have been talking to them, gotten information from them, but what is their state at right now when it comes to their financials? And do you expect them to get any of that money back?
Well, it's difficult for me to talk about the financial situation of many of these investors. Some of them were wealthier than others. Some people that went into their retirement account and gave maybe $250,000 to invest are going to have significant ramifications as their life moves forward. I would be misleading you if I told you I knew how this is going to impact all of the various investors. So, because I think we had a full range of investors, but the focal point of them are the people that met in Bible studies or in Grow Church, and that's where Seaman took advantage of it. So I don't want to tell you something that I can't substantiate at this point. We know that many of these people lost a significant amount of their investments. Certainly the people on the back end, after the Ponzi scheme broke down, got nothing. Are they going to get their money back? That's always a difficult question. At this point, the SEC has a trustee in place, and they have a clawback arrangement looking for that money and seeing what they can claw back and pay back to these victims. My experience, having done this for many years, is that's going to fall short, significantly short of the amount of money that was invested and lost. Frankly, when you lose $20 million in currency trading, that money's gone. And there's no place that you can go and retrieve 20 million when you lose 20 million in trades. It's a very, of course, currency trading, as you well know, is a very, very chancy, difficult, risk-laden operation, and he lost significantly. This is a man who previously touted himself as an experienced currency trader and had made quite a bit of money in the currency trading market previously, which, of course, wasn't the truth.
And you said he formally, sorry.
No.
You said he formally lived in this area and doesn't live here anymore?
I believe he's up in Sarasota at this point. He was arrested this morning, if I'm not mistaken. He was living in Naples. He, I think, was arrested in well, he was definitely arrested this morning. He has an initial appearance in court this afternoon before Judge Frazier. So I don't think he lives in Naples, but that's where I think he lives now. But he was in Naples for a significant period of time.
How many victims?
About 70 or maybe more. Yeah, I mean, maybe more. Maybe more. What would you say?
North of 70.
North of 70. I'm talking to the voice of reason here, but we have north of 70 here.
So when you say maybe more, is there anything that people should be looking out for if they feel like maybe they came in contact with this man at church and invested in what he was selling to them? What should they do?
I think they should contact the IRS and or the FBI and bring that information to our attention. I think we have been spending a significant period of time, the IRS and the FBI, reaching out to as many investors as possible to gather information, and that is in addition to the victims who have come forward of their own and reported this type of fraud to the FBI and the IRS. So the much information we can gather from that, as much information as we can gather as possible, would be beneficial to the entire case.
Was there any indication that he was aware that he was under an investigation, or was he opportunistic and doing questionable things right up until the arrest?
Well, I think that once the SEC filed a civil complaint against him in 2023 into 2024, I think he had some indication that he was under scrutiny. So exactly when he knew that things were coming to a close, I would say that would be the trigger point. So that is speculation on my part, but having done this for a significant period of time, I'm giving you, let me say that's a generalization, but that's a generalization that's generally true. That, at that point, I'm sure he knew that this was the end.
Yeah, I'm sorry if this was in paperwork, but is there a range of what people were taken for, like a minimum amount and a maximum amount?
Well, the range even from the victims you see here, that we have in the indictment, range from, from less than 300,000 to several million. So, for instance, if we just look at the counts of the indictment that we were referring to before, and the wire transfers, give me a moment, I'll pull back to it. We're talking about between counts 1 and 5. You see the first count, it's a wire transfer for $1,250,000. And if you move down even just to the next one, or the third one, we have a transfer for $25,000. So the range is pretty significant, and there are iterations for that, 400,000, 500,000, but, so you can put that together. But there are several very large transfers of in excess of $1 million. No, they don't overlook that. Yes, we had some of the smaller range, but there were some significantly larger ones as well.
Is there any indication, does he have a record, there's any indication he may have done this in other jurisdictions or states?
He had a prior fraud record before this happened, which I will tell you that from indications where he disclosed to a lot of these people. So I'm not saying, I don't know if he disclosed it to everybody, but he did disclose it to some of the investors.
In the SEC complaint, his wife is listed here.
Yes.
As a defendant, is that something you guys are pursuing as well right now?
Well, I will tell you that, as you know from the complaint, that she was working in the companies with Siemens. So, I mean, obviously, anybody that was in that circle is something that we're going to scrutinize. I'm not going to tell you yes or no with regard to any particular individual, but that investigation continues. But you're right, she was in fact named in the civil complaint, and other entities were as well.
And a quick scroll on both of their social media accounts shows luxury jets, luxury bags, all this lifestyle that most of us don't live. Was that something that was portrayed to a lot of these people that they were trying to get invested? Were they showing off this type of lifestyle and saying you can live like me too?
Well, if you get into the specific as to what people, for instance, in the church saw or didn't see about him, I don't know. What they did say was that he promoted his prior trading successes, that his performance for prior investments was outstanding, that he invested, for instance, in technology companies that was very successful. So he came into the category, came into the discussion with all his prior successes and telling these people, I'm going to guarantee you a rate of return of anywhere between 18% and 30%. So that was all part of the sales pitch, which in fact was incorporated into some of the investment documentation.
And those 70-plus victims, how many of those are actually local here in Southwest Florida?
Most of them are.
Most of them.
I know that there is at least one investor that Mr. Seaman had that was in Indiana. I mean, he was using a bank in Illinois, but my understanding is that most of them were from Southwest Florida, and many of them were come out of the church environment. So it's very much a Southwest Florida fraud scheme, if suffice it to say, without putting too fine a point on that. So this is not something that is not in our backyard. This is very much here where we live,
Yeah.
for a significant amount of money, I might add.
Very
Yes.
What advice do you have for people out there for similar cases like this and what they need to look out for so no one doesn't become a victim?
I think that if anybody comes, and we were talking about this before, and I was talking to one of the IRS agents, and we were laughing about it, but it's true. I mean, if anybody comes to you in an investment and guarantees you a rate of return, pack up your bags and leave. If you're going into an investment vehicle, no matter what the situation is, it has an inherent volatility to it. How many of these people understood that currency trading is yet more volatile than maybe an index fund for a particular entity? I don't know. But the key is if someone is telling you, I'm going to give you 30% guaranteed rate of return, that is a signal, a red flag to say thank you very much and I'll speak to you in the near future. That's probably, and I don't mean to be glib about that because you oftentimes see that is a sales pitch that investors will give to people, and it's simply not true. And obviously we're in a volatile market and an international market where so many things can happen. You can't guarantee a rate of return. I would say this though. One thing that investors can do is they can check who the investor is. And the SEC has got a very, very good website, and I believe it's called investor.gov. I'm pretty sure that that's what it is. And what you can do is go on that website and check about the history of a broker-dealer or someone who had run investment transactions and schemes in the past, and get some background and history. It's a wonderful first step to find out who you're dealing with, but you also have a responsibility to do some due diligence about who you're dealing with. The problem in a situation like this is you often have somebody that knows somebody else that knows somebody else, and there is an inherent trust there, and people trust them. And you kind of have to break through that and do your own analysis to protect yourself and your loved ones. But if there is one key point to come away from this, if someone's giving you a guaranteed rate of return from 2.5 a month or 18 to 30 a year, if it's too good to be true, it is. And I don't mean to be glib about that again. I've been doing this for many years, and it's the same situation. And these guys are people who are unscrupulous investors. And I don't mean to sully legitimate investors who have tremendous products out there. You know, I spent my career working with those in private practice, but they never guaranteed people's rate of return, and they provided all the information an investor would want. So those are some of the indicators that I think are important for the investing public to get past the initial trust. And let's take a look at this a little further.
Is Steven remorseful at all?
I don't know the answer to that. He was arrested this morning, and I don't know what in fact transpired of that. I know he was arrested without incident. That's my understanding, Mike?
That's my understanding.
Yes, so I don't know whether or not he was remorseful about anything. So we'll see. That time will tell. Anybody else? Okay, so I think we've been provided with the press release and the indictment. And if you have any other inquiries, I mean, Will Daniels he's the guy that runs the whole district, and he can answer any questions or you forward questions to him. Okay? Thank you very much. You know, I also want to thank the work of the FBI and the IRS in this. They did tremendous work in this, and the SEC helped as well. So, okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Have a good day, folks.
Thanks, you too.